My name is Natalie Parker Whitaker. I'm 34 years old. At 8:17 on a Saturday morning in Chicago, my husband stood in our kitchen holding my car keys in his right hand and my future in his left. Natalie, Ryan said like he was talking to a child who had embarrassed him in public, don't be selfish. My sister only gets one first baby shower. You can reschedule a work thing. A work thing. That was what he called the final promotion interview I had spent 9 years earning. Not a hobby, not a brunch, not a casual meeting I could move to Tuesday afternoon. A final interview. A final interview. 3 executives had flown in from Boston. My regional vice president had personally asked me to prepare a 90-day operations plan. The job was regional operations director at Hawthorne Medical Supply, the company where I had started as an assistant answering supply chain panic calls from hospital loading docks at 2 in the morning. That interview was not just about a title. It was about every weekend I had worked while Ryan watched football at his mother's house. Every holiday dinner I had left early because a hospital in Wisconsin needed emergency surgical equipment by sunrise. Every time his family called me too career-focused, while still asking me to pay for gifts, dinners, deposits, decorations, and every last-minute crisis they created. And now on the morning that could finally change my life, my husband looked at me and said cupcakes mattered more. His sister Madison's baby shower started at 10. My interview started at 9. I had told them this 6 weeks earlier. I had sent screenshots. I had offered to help pay for the venue, the flowers, the balloon arch, the custom cookies, and the ridiculous white and gold backdrop that said, "Welcome Baby Ava," in letters taller than my dining room table. I had done all of that. But I had also said one thing clearly. I can help before and after, I told them, but I cannot miss this interview. Madison cried when I said it. My mother-in-law, Evelyn, pressed one hand to her chest, and said, I just hope one day you understand that family memories can't be promoted. Ryan stayed quiet that night. Too quiet. I should have known he was not agreeing with me. He was planning around me. That Saturday morning, I came downstairs wearing my navy interview suit, my hair pinned back, my presentation printed and clipped inside a black leather folder. I had slept 4 hours. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from readiness. I had earned that room. Then I saw Ryan sitting at the kitchen island with my keys. Give them to me, I said. He did not move. You're going to Madison's shower, he said. We're leaving in 20 minutes. I laughed once because I honestly thought he was joking. He wasn't. Ryan, my interview is in 43 minutes, and my sister is already crying because you made her feel unimportant. I stared at him. Your sister is 29 years old. She will survive me missing the balloon setup. His face hardened. That's exactly the tone everyone is talking about. Everyone. That was how it always worked in his family. First Madison had feelings, then Evelyn had concerns, then Ryan had a duty, and somehow by the end of it I had a problem. I reached for the keys. Ryan closed his fist around them. Natalie, I'm not letting you ruin this family over a job. That was the first time I understood what was really happening. He wasn't asking me to choose family. He was demanding that I choose obedience. I went upstairs to grab my laptop and call an Uber, but when I opened my email, I saw a sent message at the top of my screen. Sent at 12:43 a.m. To Marisol Grant. Subject, withdrawal from consideration. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. The message said, due to an unexpected family obligation, I need to withdraw from consideration for the Regional Operations Director position. Thank you for the opportunity. I read it 3 times. Then I read it again because my brain refused to accept what my eyes already knew. I had not sent that email. Ryan had. My husband had waited until I fell asleep, opened my laptop, used the password he knew because I trusted him, and tried to erase 9 years of my career with 3 sentences. I walked back downstairs holding the laptop. Did you send this? I asked. Ryan looked at the screen. Not shocked, not confused, not even ashamed. He just sighed like I was making his morning harder than it needed to be. I did what you couldn't do, he said. I put family first. Something inside me went very still. Not calm, still. The way the air goes still before a tornado tears through a town. You pretended to be me, I said. I protected you from making a selfish mistake. No, Ryan. You stole my voice. He stood up then, angry now. If you walk into that interview today, don't bother coming home as my wife. I looked at him. At the man I had loved for 7 years. The man who used to tell people I was brilliant until brilliance started earning more than him. The man who said he wanted a strong wife until strength meant I stopped asking permission. The man who had just threatened our marriage because his sister wanted me standing beside a dessert table instead of sitting across from a hiring panel. My phone buzzed. A text from Madison. "Mom says you're still trying to go to that interview. I can't believe you'd do this to me on the most important day of my life." Then another from Evelyn. "A wife who chooses ambition over family should not be surprised when family stops choosing her." Then Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced down, and for 1 second, I saw the group chat name reflected on the black surface of our microwave. Whitaker family only. Not family. Whitaker family only. Because after 7 years of marriage, I was still not one of them. I took a picture of the sent email. I took a picture of Ryan holding my keys. I took a picture of the text where he told me not to come home as his wife. Then I called my boss. Marisol answered on the second ring. "Natalie," she said carefully, "I received your email." "That email was not sent by me," I said. "My husband sent it without my permission. I am still coming to the interview." There was silence. Then Marisol said, "Can you get here by 9?" I looked at Ryan. He was still holding my keys. "No," I said, "but I can get there by 9:07. Another pause. Then she said, "Get here, and Natalie, yes, bring proof." I hung up and ordered an Uber. Ryan watched me from across the kitchen. "You're really doing this?" he asked. I picked up my folder. "No," I said. "I already did this, for 9 years. Today I'm just showing up to collect what I earned." The Uber arrived at 8:46. It was raining. My hair came loose on the sidewalk. My suit jacket got wet. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped my folder getting into the back seat. Ryan stood in the doorway and called after me. "Don't expect me to defend you when Madison falls apart." I looked back once. "You never defended me when I was the one falling apart." Then I closed the car door. By noon, Madison would be sobbing in front of 30 guests, telling them I had ruined her baby shower. By 2, Evelyn would post on Facebook that some women mistake ambition for character. By 6, Ryan would pack a bag and go to his mother's house, convinced I would beg him to come home. I didn't, because at 9:07 that morning, I walked into conference room B with rain on my shoulders, proof in my hand, and nothing left to lose. 6 months later, Madison Whitaker walked into Hawthorne Medical Supply wearing a new employee badge, a fake smile, and the same spoiled confidence she had worn at her shower. She looked around the conference room, waiting to meet her new boss. Then she saw me sitting at the head of the table. I opened her onboarding folder, looked her directly in the eye, and said, "Welcome to Regional Operations, Madison. From today forward, you report to me." Before I tell you how my husband's golden sister became my direct employee, I need to take you back to the morning Ryan decided my future was less important than his family's feelings. Because that was the day I stopped asking for a seat at their table and started building my own. To understand why I got into that Uber with rain dripping down the collar of my interview suit, you need to understand what that promotion meant to me. It was never just about a bigger office. It was never just about a new title printed under my name in an email signature. And it definitely was not, as my husband liked to call it when he wanted to make me feel small, a work thing. I started at Hawthorne Medical Supply 9 years earlier, in a gray cubicle 2 rows away from the emergency exit, answering phones for hospital supply coordinators who were usually angry before I even said hello. My job title was Operations Assistant, which sounded neat and organized on paper, but in real life it meant I did whatever no one else had time to do. If a shipment of IV pumps went missing somewhere between Rockford and Milwaukee, I made the calls. If a snowstorm shut down a delivery route, I found a backup truck. If a hospital loading dock refused a pallet because one digit on the order form was wrong, I fixed the paperwork while a nurse on the other end of the phone reminded me that patients did not care about clerical errors. My first winter there, I slept in my car twice because roads were too icy to drive home safely after midnight. My second year, I missed Thanksgiving dinner because a rural hospital in northern Wisconsin needed emergency surgical trays after their regular supplier failed. My third year, I was promoted to logistics coordinator, and I cried in the restroom for 8 minutes because it was the first time a company had looked at me and said, "We see what you're doing." I did not come from a family that had connections. My father was an electrician in Milwaukee. My mother worked night shifts as a nurse until her knees gave out. They loved me, but love did not pay tuition, and encouragement did not erase student loans. Everything I had, I built the slow way, the boring way, the way no one claps for while it is happening. Spreadsheets at 11:30 p.m., performance reviews printed and highlighted, training manuals read twice, coffee gone cold beside my laptop. By the time I married Ryan Whitaker, I was already used to working hard. That was one of the things he said he admired about me when we first met. "You're intense," he told me on our third date, smiling across a little Italian restaurant in Lincoln Park. "But in a good way, like you know exactly where you're going." Back then, I thought he meant it as a compliment. For the first few years of our marriage, he wore my ambition like it was something he had helped create. At parties, he would put his hand on the small of my back and tell people, "Natalie's the organized one. She basically runs half her company." I would laugh and correct him. "Not half." "Not yet," he would say. I used to love that. I used to think Ryan believed in me, but somewhere along the line his pride turned into discomfort. It happened so slowly I almost missed it. A comment here, a joke there, a little silence every time I got good news. When I became senior operations analyst, he said, "That's great, Nat. Just don't let them dump everyone else's work on you." When I became operations manager, he said, "I'm happy for you. I just hope this doesn't mean more late nights." When my salary passed his for the first time, he said nothing at all. That night, he drank 3 beers in front of the TV and told me he was tired when I asked if something was wrong. Ryan worked as a freelance financial consultant, which sounded more stable than it was. Some months were good. Some months he spent more time networking than invoicing. I never judged him for that. Marriage, to me, meant taking turns carrying the heavier side. But Ryan did not see it that way. If I paid the mortgage during a slow month, he called it temporary. If I covered his car insurance, he said he would get me back. If I bought gifts for his family because he forgot, he told everyone, "We got you something." We, that word did a lot of work in our marriage. His family loved that version of me, the helpful Natalie, the reliable Natalie. The Natalie who handled the restaurant reservations, brought the extra dessert, remembered everyone's birthdays, and quietly covered costs no one wanted to discuss. What they did not love was the Natalie who had meetings. The Natalie who said no. The Natalie who sometimes looked at her phone during Sunday dinner because a hospital warehouse in Indiana had just lost power and 3 trucks needed to be rerouted before morning. Ryan's mother, Evelyn Whitaker, had a way of insulting people without ever raising her voice. She was a polished woman in her early 60s who wore pearl earrings to casual barbecues and believed every family gathering should look like a magazine spread. Her house in Naperville smelled like lemon candles and judgment. "Natalie is very career-focused," she was smiling over her wine glass. "That's admirable, in its own way." In its own way. That was Evelyn's favorite knife, small enough to deny, sharp enough to bleed. Ryan's younger sister Madison was the opposite of quiet judgment. She was loud, need-wrapped in designer maternity clothes. Madison was 29, pretty in a soft, practiced way with long blonde hair, perfect nails, and the ability to cry without ruining her mascara. The Whitakers treated Madison like she had been born during a national emergency and required permanent protection. When Madison quit her first job after 8 months because her manager didn't appreciate her communication style, Evelyn said the workplace had failed her. When she left her second job because the commute was emotionally draining, Ryan said she needed space to find herself. When she forgot to pay her share of a family vacation rental, everyone pretended not to notice until I put it on my card. Madison never asked for help directly. She simply created a situation where helping her became the only socially acceptable option. Her baby shower was a perfect example. The second she announced she was pregnant, Evelyn began planning like the child was heir to a small European throne. There were Pinterest boards, shared documents, vendor lists, a color palette called Soft Ivory Sunrise. Madison wanted a brunch shower at a private room in a restaurant overlooking the river. Evelyn wanted custom floral arrangements. Ryan wanted everyone to just get along, which usually meant I was supposed to pay for something and not mention it. At first, I was happy to help. I really was. I ordered the cupcakes from a bakery near my office because Madison said she was too nauseous to call. I paid the deposit on the flower wall because Evelyn claimed her credit card was acting strange. I found a photographer, negotiated the rate, reviewed the menu, and bought Madison a white cashmere baby blanket that cost more than I had planned to spend. Then, 6 weeks before the shower, Marisol Grant called me into her office. Marisol was the vice president of regional operations at Hawthorne, and she was everything I had spent years trying to become. Calm under pressure, precise without being cold. The kind of woman who could walk into a chaotic room and make everyone sit up straighter without saying a word. She closed her office door and said, "Natalie, I want you to apply for Regional Operations Director." For a second, I thought I had misheard her. "That position reports directly to you," I said. "Yes. It oversees the entire Midwest region." "Yes, and Boston is opening it externally." "They were," Marisol said. Then I reminded them that the strongest candidate was already here. I sat very still. There are moments in life when you can feel a door opening before you see what is on the other side. That was one of them. Marisol told me the final interview would be Saturday, April 13th at 9 a.m. 3 executives from Boston would be there. I would need to present a 90-day operational improvement plan and defend it under questioning. Saturday, April 13th, the same day as Madison's baby shower. My stomach tightened, but only for a moment, because the solution seemed obvious to me. The shower started at 10, the setup started at 8. I would help the night before, go to my interview, and arrive at the shower a little late. Reasonable people would understand that. The mistake I made was assuming I was dealing with reasonable people. That night, I told Ryan first. We were standing in the kitchen. He was scrolling on his phone while I reheated leftover pasta. "Marisol wants me to interview for regional director," I said. Ryan looked up. For half a second, I saw pride on his face. Then he asked, "When?" "April 13th, 9 in the morning." His expression changed. I knew that look. It was the look he got when my life became inconvenient to his family. "That's Madison's shower." "I know. I can still come after. I'll help with everything Friday night." He set his phone down. "Natalie." Just my name. Tired. Warning. "Ryan, this is the final interview, and it's my sister's first baby shower." I waited for him to smile, to soften, to say he understood. He didn't. "She'll be upset," he said. "She can be upset and still be okay." His jaw tightened. "You don't get it. This matters to her." I looked at him across our kitchen island, the pasta forgotten between us, "and this matters to me." He looked away first. The next day, Madison sent a message in the family group chat. "Reminder, shower setup starts at 8 a.m. Natalie, please don't be late. We literally can't do this without you." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed carefully, "I'll help Friday evening and come to the shower after my final promotion interview Saturday morning. I should be there by 11. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Madison replied, "Wow, okay." Then Evelyn, "Family memories only happen once." Ryan did not respond in the chat, but that night he slept with his back to me. That was how the punishment usually started. Silence first, then guilt, then pressure, then the final expectation that I would apologize for having a boundary. Only this time, I did not apologize. I spent the next week preparing for the interview. I built my presentation slide by slide. I studied cost reports, vendor delays, warehouse staffing data, and emergency delivery patterns across 6 states. I rehearsed answers in the bathroom mirror while Ryan brushed his teeth without looking at me. Every night, Madison sent updates about the shower. The balloon arch had to be assembled by 8:30. The photographer wanted a family shot at 9:45. The dessert table needed someone detail-oriented. Someone. She meant me. By Friday evening, I drove to the restaurant after work and spent 3 hours arranging centerpieces, labeling gift bags, and taping tiny gold stars to table cards, while Madison sat in a chair rubbing her stomach and telling everyone how exhausted she was. Evelyn watched me adjust the flower wall and said, "See, isn't this better than staring at spreadsheets?" I smiled without showing my teeth. Ryan heard her. He said nothing. At 9:12 that night, I carried 2 boxes of leftover decorations to my car. Ryan followed me into the parking lot. "You can still do the right thing tomorrow," he said. I was so tired I almost laughed. "I am doing the right thing." "For who?" I turned to face him. "For me, Ryan." He looked at me like those 2 words were the most selfish thing I had ever said. I drove home alone that night with my interview suit hanging from the hook in the back seat, my presentation folder on the passenger seat, and a strange, heavy feeling in my chest. Not fear exactly, recognition, because deep down I think I already knew Ryan was not going to let Saturday morning happen peacefully. I just had no idea how far he was willing to go to stop me. Saturday morning started with rain. Not a dramatic storm. Not thunder shaking the windows or lightning splitting the sky. Just a cold, steady Chicago rain that tapped against the bedroom glass like a warning. I woke up at 5:15 before my alarm could ring. For a few seconds, I lay still under the comforter, staring at the gray light around the curtains and listening to Ryan breathe beside me. His back was turned toward me. It had been turned toward me all week. That was how Ryan punished me when he didn't want to fight out loud. Silence. Distance. A cold shoulder in bed. A sigh when I entered a room. A text left unanswered long enough to remind me that forgiveness was something he controlled. I used to chase him when he did that. I would ask if he was okay. I would soften my voice. I would apologize for things that did not require an apology just to bring warmth back into the house. But that morning, I didn't touch his shoulder. I didn't whisper his name. I got out of bed quietly and walked into the bathroom. My navy interview suit hung from the back of the door, freshly steamed. My blouse was ivory, simple, professional. My shoes were polished and lined up beside the vanity. I had laid everything out the night before because I knew my hands would be too nervous in the morning to make decisions. I showered, dried my hair, pinned it back, and did my makeup with a steadiness I did not feel. On the counter beside me was a small index card where I had written 3 sentences in blue ink. "You earned this room. Speak with facts. Do not shrink." I read those words 3 times. Then I tucked the card into the inside pocket of my folder. By 6:10, I was downstairs making coffee. My presentation folder sat on the kitchen island. My laptop bag was by the door. My car keys were supposed to be in the ceramic bowl beside the mail. They were not there. At first, I assumed I had moved them. I checked my purse, my coat pocket, the entryway table, the counter near the sink. Then I checked the ceramic bowl again, as if keys could appear if I looked hard enough. Nothing. I heard movement behind me. Ryan walked into the kitchen wearing dark jeans and a pale blue polo shirt, already dressed for Madison's baby shower. His hair was damp from the shower. He looked rested in a way that made me realize he had slept very well. "Have you seen my keys?" I asked. He poured coffee into a travel mug. "They're safe." I turned slowly. "What does that mean?" He took a sip before answering. "It means we need to talk before you make a decision you can't take back." My stomach tightened. "Ryan, I don't have time for this." "That's the problem," he said. "You never have time when it matters to my family." I looked at the clock on the microwave. 6:22. My interview was at 9. The office was 28 minutes away without traffic, 45 in rain. I had planned to leave at 7:45, get there early, review my notes in the parking garage, breathe, and walk in like someone who belonged there. Ryan had already taken away the breathing part. "Give me my keys," I said. He set his coffee down and reached into his pocket. For 1 second, I thought he was going to hand them over. Instead, he placed them on the kitchen island and rested his palm over them, like a man placing his hand over a winning card. "Natalie, Madison was crying last night." "Madison cries when restaurants run out of oat milk." His eyes narrowed. "That's cruel." "No, Ryan. Cruel is expecting me to miss the biggest interview of my career because your sister wants me arranging centerpieces." He shook his head, disappointed. "You hear yourself? That is exactly what Mom means when she says you don't understand family." There it was, Evelyn's voice coming out of his mouth. I had heard it so many times over the years that I could almost predict the next sentence. Family is sacrifice. Family shows up. Family doesn't keep score. But somehow in the Whitaker family, sacrifice always flowed in one direction. Toward Madison, toward Evelyn, toward Ryan, away from me. "I helped for 3 hours last night," I said. "I paid for the flower wall. I ordered the cupcakes. I bought the blanket. I arranged the vendors. I am not abandoning anyone. You're choosing a title over a memory. I laughed once, not because it was funny, because the sentence was so polished I knew it had not started with him. Did your mother write that for you? His face flushed. Don't do that. Then don't repeat her lines to me. He stepped closer. I am your husband. And I am your wife, not your employee, not your assistant, not your family's emergency service. His hand tightened over the keys. You're going to regret this. No, I said. I think I've been regretting other things for a long time. He stared at me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The rain tapped against the window. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere upstairs, my phone alarm started ringing because I had set a second one for 6:30. That sound broke something in me. I walked around him toward the stairs. Where are you going? He asked. To get my laptop and call an Uber. His voice changed. Natalie. I ignored him. Upstairs, my laptop was open on the small desk in our bedroom. I had left it charging overnight. When I touched the trackpad, the screen lit up to my email inbox. The first thing I saw was not a message from Marisol. It was a sent email, sent at 12:43 a.m. My body went cold before I opened it. To Marisol Grant, subject, withdrawal from consideration. The message was only 3 lines. Due to an unexpected family obligation, I need to withdraw from consideration for the Regional Operations Director position. Thank you for the opportunity. I apologize for any inconvenience. I stared at the screen, once, twice, a third time. The words did not change. My hands went numb. I had not written that email. I had not withdrawn. I had not apologized for wanting the life I had built with my own labor. Behind me, Ryan appeared in the bedroom doorway. He did not look surprised. That was the part that hurt first. Not the email. Not even the violation of it. The calm on his face. You sent this, I said. He folded his arms. I did what needed to be done. For a second, I could not breathe. You pretended to be me. I protected us from a bad decision. I turned the laptop toward him. You withdrew me from the final interview for a job I spent 9 years working toward. You were going to humiliate me, he said, his voice rising. Do you understand how it looks when my wife can't show up for my sister because of work? How it looks? Yes, Natalie, how it looks. My whole family knows you're obsessed with this job. I stood up slowly. I am not obsessed with my job. I am committed to my future. Our future. No, I said, and my voice sounded strange even to me. Flat. Clear. If it were our future, you wouldn't have tried to delete me from it. Ryan flinched, but only for a second. Then anger covered it. You're being dramatic. I picked up my phone. What are you doing? Calling Marisol. He moved toward me. Don't. I looked him in the eye. Take one more step and I will call the police before I call my boss. He stopped. I had never said anything like that to him before. Maybe I had never needed to. Maybe I had needed to for years and only just realized it. Marisol answered on the second ring. Her voice was careful, professional. Natalie? Marisol, I said, forcing my voice not to shake. The email you received last night was not sent by me. Silence. Ryan stared at me from across the room. I kept going. My husband accessed my laptop while I was asleep and sent it without my permission. I am still coming to the interview. Another pause. Then Marisol said, Can you prove that? Yes. Then bring proof. Can you be here by 9? I looked at the clock. 6:47. Yes, I said. I'll be there. When I hung up, Ryan looked almost offended. You dragged our marriage into your company? You dragged my company into our marriage when you used my name. He scoffed. You know what? Fine. Go, but if you walk into that interview, do not bother coming home as my wife. The sentence landed hard, not because it shocked me, because a part of me had been waiting for it. There it was, the real choice he had wanted to force all along. My career or my marriage, my voice or his comfort, my future or Madison's feelings. I picked up my phone and took a screenshot of the sent email. Then I took a picture of the laptop screen with the timestamp. Then I walked past him, down the stairs and into the kitchen. My keys were still under his palm. Move your hand, I said. No. So I opened a rideshare app and ordered a car. Ryan laughed bitterly. You're unbelievable. No, I said, watching the little car icon move across the map toward our house. I'm late. The Uber arrived at 8:11 because traffic was worse than expected. By then, Madison had called 5 times. Evelyn had called twice. The family group chat had become a performance. Madison. I can't believe this is happening today. Some people reveal their priorities when family needs them most. I tried. 2 words, 2 clean little words designed to make him look like the patient husband of an impossible woman. I screenshotted that too. Outside, the rain had gotten heavier. I ran to the Uber with my folder under my coat, but my hair still came loose. My shoes splashed through a puddle near the curb. By the time I slid into the back seat, my suit jacket was damp at the shoulders, and my pulse was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Big morning?" I looked down at the folder in my lap. "Yes," I said. "Bigger than I thought." We reached Hawthorne at 8:58. I did not have time to fix my hair. I did not have time to sit in the garage and breathe. I did not have time to become the polished version of myself I had planned to present. So I became the real one. The woman who had solved supply emergencies in snowstorms, the woman who had worked through holidays, the woman who had been underestimated at dinner tables and still outperformed people with louder names and softer lives. I walked into conference room B at 9:04. 5 executives looked up. Marisol sat at the far end of the table. Her eyes moved from my wet hair to my shaking hands to the black folder pressed against my chest. "You made it," she said. I nodded. I did. Then I set my folder on the table, opened my presentation, and began. My 90-day plan focuses on 3 areas: route efficiency, vendor accountability, and emergency response redundancy. My voice shook on the first sentence, not the second. By the third, I was steady. Because once I started talking about the work, I remembered who I was. I was not Ryan's disobedient wife. I was not Madison's missing helper. I was not Evelyn's selfish daughter-in-law. I was Natalie Parker Whitaker, operations manager, 9 years in the field, and I knew exactly what I was talking about. For 46 minutes, they questioned me. What would I cut? What would I preserve? How would I handle union pushback in the warehouse? How would I justify a vendor penalty structure to hospital partners? What would I do if 2 emergency routes failed at once during a blizzard? I answered all of it. Not perfectly, honestly, specifically, with numbers, timelines, and examples from real crises I had already handled while no one in Ryan's family cared where I was. Near the end, one executive from Boston leaned back and asked, "Miss Whitaker, leadership often requires choosing between competing priorities. How do you decide what matters most?" The room went quiet. I thought of Ryan's hand over my keys, Madison's messages, Evelyn's polished little insults, the emails sent in my name. Then I said, "I look at long-term consequences. I separate urgency from importance, and I don't let guilt make operational decisions." Marisol's face did not change, but I saw her pen stop moving. The interview ended at 10:13. I thanked each person, gathered my folder, and walked into the hallway on legs that felt barely attached to me. My phone had 31 notifications. Ryan, Madison, Evelyn, the family group chat. One message from Ryan sat at the top. "You chose your job. Remember that." I leaned against the wall outside conference room B and stared at those words. Then I typed back one sentence. "No, Ryan, I chose myself." And for the first time all morning, my hands stopped shaking. I did not go straight home after the interview. I sat in my car in the Hawthorne parking garage for almost 20 minutes with both hands on the steering wheel, even though I had not driven there myself. The Uber had dropped me off at the front entrance. My car was still at home, sitting uselessly in our driveway because my husband had decided I was not allowed to use it. But somehow, I still ended up in the parking garage. I think I needed a place that felt between worlds. Not work, not home, not Madison's baby shower. Just concrete walls, yellow lines, fluorescent lights, and the sound of rainwater dripping somewhere near the exit ramp. My phone kept buzzing. I had stopped counting the notifications. Ryan had called 12 times, Madison 7, Evelyn 4. The family group chat had become a courtroom where I had already been tried, convicted, and sentenced without being present. Madison wrote, "I am literally shaking. I can't believe you did this to me." Evelyn wrote, "Some choices reveal character." Ryan wrote, "You made your point. Now get here and apologize." Apologize. That word sat in my chest like a stone. Not "Are you okay?" Not "How did the interview go?" Not "I'm sorry I sent an email pretending to be you." Just apologize. For a moment, I considered going home, locking the door, turning off my phone, and letting the Whitakers perform their tragedy without me. I had already done the impossible part. I had walked into that room. I had given the presentation. I had answered the questions. I had not let Ryan erase me. But then I looked at the baby blanket in the back seat, white cashmere, folded inside a silver gift box, tied with a ribbon Madison had picked from a sample photo she sent me at midnight 3 weeks earlier. I had paid for that too. And something about leaving that gift in my car felt like letting them rewrite the whole story. So I ordered another Uber and went to the shower. The restaurant was on the river, all glass windows and white tablecloths, the kind of place Evelyn loved because it made family dysfunction look expensive. The private room was at the back, behind 2 sliding doors decorated with ivory balloons. I could hear laughter before I walked in. Then I opened the door. The laughter stopped. 30 people turned to look at me. I stood there in my damp navy suit, my hair still pinned badly from the rain, holding Madison's gift in both hands like an offering no one wanted. The room was exactly how Madison had wanted it. Soft ivory balloons, gold-rimmed plates, a flower wall in the corner, a dessert table with cupcakes arranged in perfect tiers. The backdrop I had helped install the night before stood behind Madison's chair. Welcome, baby Ava. Madison sat beneath it in a white dress, one hand resting on her stomach, her eyes red but dry. Evelyn stood behind her like a queen mother protecting the throne. Ryan was beside Madison, not by the door waiting for me. Not halfway across the room with concern on his face. Beside Madison. That told me everything before anyone said a word. Evelyn was the first to speak. Well, she said, her voice carrying just enough for the nearest tables to hear. Look who finally found time for family. A few people looked down at their plates. Someone coughed. I walked to the gift table and set the silver box beside a mountain of pastel bags. I came as soon as I could, I said. Madison let out a small, broken laugh. As soon as you could, she repeated, after your meeting. After my final promotion interview, I said. Ryan's eyes flashed. Natalie, just my name. Warning again. I turned to him. What? He glanced around the room, embarrassed now, but not by what he had done, by the fact that I might say it out loud. Not here, he said. Evelyn stepped forward. This is not the time to bring work drama into Madison's shower. I looked at her. Interesting, because all morning I was told Madison's shower was important enough to bring into my workplace. Her smile disappeared. Madison's face crumpled on command. I knew you would do this, she whispered. The room leaned toward her. That was Madison's gift. She could make a whisper louder than a scream. I knew you would come here and make everyone talk about you, she said. You couldn't let me have one day. I should have stayed quiet. That was what the old Natalie would have done. The old Natalie would have swallowed the truth to keep the room comfortable. She would have apologized for the timing, praised the decorations, hugged Madison carefully, and gone home with a headache that lasted 3 days. But the old Natalie had not seen an email sent in her name at 12:43 a.m. The old Natalie had not watched her husband cover her car keys with his palm, like her life belonged to him. So I said, Madison, I helped pay for this day. A ripple moved through the room. Madison blinked. What? The flower wall, I said, the cupcakes, the photographer deposit, the gift bags, half the room rental, the blanket on that table. I helped with all of it. I told you 6 weeks ago I had an interview this morning and would arrive late. Evelyn's voice sharpened. No one asked you to turn generosity into a transaction. No, I said. You just asked me to turn my career into a sacrifice. Ryan walked toward me then, jaw tight. Step outside. Why? Because you're embarrassing yourself. I looked at him, and for one terrible second I remembered the man he used to be. The man who once brought me soup when I had the flu. The man who held my hand at my father's surgery. The man who told me he admired my drive. I wondered when that man had become someone who could look me in the eye and call my future an embarrassment. Then I remembered the sent email, and I let the sadness harden into clarity. No, I said, I'm fine right here. Ryan leaned close, lowering his voice. You are making this worse. You sent an email to my boss pretending to be me, I said, loud enough for the first 2 tables to hear. The room went silent. Not polite silent, dead silent. Ryan's face drained of color. Evelyn said, that is private marital business. No, I said, that is my career and my name. Madison stood up too quickly, one hand under her stomach. "Oh my God," she said. "Are you seriously accusing my brother of something at my baby shower?" "I'm stating what happened." "You're jealous," Madison snapped. That was the first time her tears disappeared completely. "You've always been jealous because my family actually shows up for me." The words hit harder than I expected, because she was right about one thing. They did show up for her. They showed up when she quit jobs. They showed up when she cried. They showed up when she needed money, attention, excuses, rescue. And I had spent 7 years trying to earn a place in a family that had never asked Madison to earn anything. I looked at Ryan. "Did you tell them you sent the email?" He said nothing. That silence was his confession. A woman near the dessert table whispered, "He did what?" Evelyn heard it and immediately raised her voice. "This is exactly the kind of behavior we have been concerned about. Natalie has been under a great deal of pressure at work, and clearly today has overwhelmed her." There it was, the shift from accusation to concern, from victim to unstable woman. I almost admired how fast she did it. Ryan picked up the line immediately. "Nat, you need to calm down." I smiled a little. Not because anything was funny, because I finally saw the machine. Madison cried. Evelyn translated. Ryan enforced, and I apologized. That was the whole family system. I reached into my purse and took out my phone. "I have the email," I said. "The timestamp, the screenshots, the text Ryan sent me saying if I went to the interview I shouldn't come home as his wife." Ryan's eyes flicked to my phone. "You screenshotted that?" "Yes." His expression changed from anger to alarm. "Good. I'm not discussing this further here," I said. "I came to bring Madison's gift and to show respect for the baby. I've done both." I turned to Madison. "I hope Ava is healthy. I hope motherhood is good to you. And I hope one day you understand that other women do not exist to make your life easier." Madison stared at me as if I had slapped her. Evelyn hissed my name. Ryan followed me into the hallway when I left. The private room doors slid shut behind us, muffling the whispers inside. "You just humiliated my sister," he said. I stopped walking. "No, Ryan, I told the truth in a room where everyone was comfortable with a lie. She's pregnant, and I'm your wife." He looked away. There it was again, the answer he never wanted to say out loud. Madison first, always. I walked out of the restaurant into the rain. This time, I did not cry. I sat in the Uber back to our house, opened a folder on my phone, and named it Whitaker Documentation. Then I saved everything. The email, the screenshots, the group chat, the photos of Ryan holding my keys, the receipts from the shower, the Facebook post Evelyn made 20 minutes later. Some women mistake ambition for character. Today reminded me that family values matter more than titles. 83 likes in the first hour. 24 comments. "Stay strong, Mom Evelyn." Poor Madison. Some people only care about themselves. Praying for your family. By the time I got home, Ryan had already packed a bag. He stood in the bedroom doorway while I hung my damp suit over a chair. "I'm staying at my mom's," he said, "until you understand what you did." I looked at him. "For the first time, Ryan, I understand exactly what I did." He waited for more. Maybe an apology. Maybe a plea. Maybe the old Natalie. But I was too tired to resurrect her. So he left. The house became quiet in a way I had never heard before. Not peaceful. Not yet. Just empty. 2 days later, Marisol called me into her office. I thought it was about the email, about the mess, about whether my personal life had made me look unstable. Instead, she closed the door and smiled. "Natalie," she said, "you gave the strongest interview of the final round." My breath caught. "The board wants to offer you the Regional Operations Director position. Official announcement will be delayed until the acquisition paperwork is complete, but congratulations." For a moment, I could not speak. 9 years. Hundreds of late nights. Every holiday call. Every frozen loading dock. Every spreadsheet. Every moment I had been told I was too much, too focused, too unavailable, too ambitious. It all narrowed to one sentence. Congratulations. I walked to my car afterward and sat behind the wheel with both hands in my lap. Then I cried. Not because Ryan was gone, not because the Whitakers hated me, but because the first person I wanted to call was my husband, and he was the reason I had almost lost it. That night, Ryan came home just long enough to put a folded sheet of paper on the kitchen table. "I wrote down what needs to happen for us to move forward," he said. I opened it. 4 conditions. Apologize to Madison publicly. Admit I overreacted about the email. Promise not to put work before family again. Attend marriage counseling to address my ambition problem. I read the list twice. Then I looked up at him. Where on this page do you apologize for pretending to be me? Ryan's face hardened. When you start acting like my wife again, he said, I'll start talking about being your husband. That was the moment I stopped hoping he would understand. Because Ryan did understand. He just believed my future was acceptable only when it fit inside the space his family left for me. The official announcement came 18 days later, not at a dramatic company-wide meeting, not with applause or balloons or some cinematic moment where everyone turned to look at me. It came in an email at 8:03 on a Monday morning while I was standing in the break room, waiting for the coffee machine to finish making something that tasted vaguely like burned cardboard. Subject: Leadership Update, Midwest Regional Operations. I opened it on my phone. Hawthorne Medical Supply is pleased to announce that Natalie Parker Whitaker has been promoted to Regional Operations Director, effective immediately. For a few seconds, I just stared. There it was. My name, the title, effective immediately. No one could take it back now. Not Ryan, not Evelyn, not Madison. Not a fake withdrawal email sent after midnight from a laptop I had trusted my husband to never touch that way. I read the first line again, then again. By the time I looked up, the coffee had overflowed the paper cup and was dripping onto the counter. Director Whitaker? I turned. Derek from Warehouse Routing was standing behind me with a grin on his face. Congratulations, he said. Guess we're all officially scared of you now. I laughed because I needed to do something with the pressure building behind my ribs. Good, I said. Fear improves compliance. By 9, people were stopping by my office. Some hugged me. Some shook my hand. Some looked relieved, like they had been waiting for someone who actually understood the chaos to be put in charge of it. Marisol came in last. She leaned against the doorframe with a paper cup of coffee in one hand and said, How does it feel? I looked at the new nameplate facilities had placed beside my office door. Natalie Parker Whitaker, Regional Operations Director. It feels real, I said. That's because it is. I wanted to tell her that part of me still expected Ryan to walk in and explain why it was inconvenient. I wanted to tell her that the first thing I had done after reading the announcement was check my sent folder, like I still couldn't trust my own email to belong only to me. Instead, I said, Thank you for not counting that withdrawal email against me. Marisol's expression cooled. Natalie, what happened was a serious violation. I hope you understand that. I do. No, she said. I hope you understand it was not a marriage argument. Someone impersonated you in a professional process. I looked down at my desk. I know. Good, because leadership requires clarity, especially when things get personal. At the time, I thought she was only talking about Ryan. She wasn't. 2 weeks after my promotion, Hawthorne finalized the acquisition of BrightPath Client Services, a smaller company that handled vendor relationships, client onboarding, and conference coordination for healthcare supply partners. The acquisition had been in quiet negotiation for months, which explained why my announcement had been delayed. It also meant 62 BrightPath employees would be absorbed into Hawthorne over the next quarter. At first, I saw it as a challenge. Messy, yes. Complicated, definitely. But this was exactly the kind of operational puzzle I liked. New reporting lines. Duplicated systems, confused vendors, nervous employees, too many spreadsheets with different naming conventions. To me, that was not chaos. That was a map waiting to be cleaned up. On a Thursday afternoon, HR sent me the preliminary integration chart. I opened the file between meetings and began scanning names. Vendor accounts, client success, regional support. Then I saw it. Madison Whitaker. I stopped scrolling. For a moment, I thought there had to be another Madison Whitaker. Chicago was a big city. Whitaker was not an impossible name. Then I read the next columns. Current employer, BrightPath Client Services. Current role, Client Experience Coordinator. New department, Regional Operations. Direct manager, Natalie Parker Whitaker. I sat completely still. The office noise outside my door faded. Phones ringing, keyboards clicking, someone laughing near the printer. All of it became distant. Madison. Ryan's golden sister. The woman who had cried in front of 30 people because I would not miss the most important interview of my career for her baby shower. The woman whose family had called me selfish, unstable, cold, ambitious, dramatic. Now she was being assigned to my department, under me. I closed the spreadsheet, then opened it again. The words were still there. Direct Manager, Natalie Parker Whitaker. I did not laugh. That surprised me. For weeks I had imagined what it would feel like if the universe ever handed Madison consequences. I thought I would feel satisfaction, maybe even joy. Instead, I felt a kind of heavy seriousness settle over me. Because this was not a dinner table. This was not Evelyn's living room. This was not a baby shower with ivory balloons and whispered accusations. This was my workplace, my team, my responsibility. And if I mishandled it, they would use it against me. I forwarded the file to Marisol with one sentence. We need to discuss a potential conflict of interest. She was in my office 11 minutes later. You saw the name, she said. Yes. Is it the same Madison? Yes. She closed the door. Tell me what I need to know. So I did. Not emotionally, not dramatically, just the facts. Madison was my sister-in-law. There was ongoing personal conflict related to the promotion interview. My husband had attempted to interfere with the interview. Madison and her family had publicly blamed me for attending it. I had documentation if HR needed it. Marisol listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Can you manage her fairly?" Yes. Can you document everything? Yes. Can you resist reacting personally if she tries to provoke you? I thought of Madison's face under the balloon arch. I thought of Ryan saying, "Don't bother coming home as my wife." I thought of Evelyn's Facebook post. Then I said, yes. Marisol studied me for a long moment. All right, she said. Then we keep the reporting line for now. Moving her just because of family history could create its own issue. But Natalie, listen carefully. Every expectation in writing, every missed deadline logged, every coaching conversation summarized, no private hallway arguments, no verbal side deals. You manage her exactly like everyone else. I understand. And if she mentions the baby shower, she won't hear me mention it back. Marisol nodded once. Good, that's leadership. The first onboarding meeting was the following Monday at 10. I arrived 15 minutes early. Conference room C had glass walls, a long walnut table, and a view of the river that looked steel gray under the November sky. I placed folders at each seat. BrightPath employees would receive department charts, system login instructions, a 90-day integration calendar, and my expectations for reporting. I wore a black blazer, simple gold studs, and my hair pulled back. Not armor. Close enough. At 9:58, the BrightPath group began filing in. Nervous smiles, new badges, too many people trying to look confident while silently wondering if their jobs were safe. Then Madison walked in. Cream blazer, smooth blonde hair, one hand on her belly, a Starbucks cup in the other. She was laughing with another woman when she entered. Then she saw me. The laugh died on her face. Her eyes moved to the screen behind me. Welcome, BrightPath Regional Support Team. Natalie Parker Whitaker, Regional Operations Director. For 1 second, Madison looked genuinely lost, like the room had rearranged itself around her without permission. I smiled professionally. Good morning, Madison. She did not answer right away. The woman beside her looked confused. You two know each other? Madison's mouth. She's my sister-in-law. A few heads turned. I kept my expression. And today, I said, I'm your department director. Please take any open seat. Her cheeks flushed. She chose the chair farthest from me. I began exactly on time. Good morning, everyone. I'm Natalie Parker Whitaker. Over the next 90 days, we'll be integrating BrightPath's client support functions into Hawthorne's Midwest regional operations. I know transitions like this can feel uncertain, so my goal is to make expectations clear, measurable, and consistent. I saw Madison shift in her seat at the word consistent. Good. She should. I walked them through the new systems, vendor dashboards, client response windows, escalation protocols, weekly reporting deadlines, communication rules, no side channels for work requests, no undocumented vendor changes, no missed client updates without escalation, no assumptions. Operations did not run on feelings. Operations ran on proof. When I handed out reporting line sheets, I watched Madison open hers. Her eyes found the line immediately. Direct Manager Natalie Parker Whitaker. Her jaw tightened so hard I could see it from the front of the room. After the meeting ended, she waited until everyone else had left. Then she approached the table slowly. Is this some kind of joke? She asked. I stacked my folders. No. You're my boss? I'm your department director. Your role reports to my team. You could have had me moved. I could have requested a review. HR and leadership decided the structure should remain based on department need. She laughed under her breath. Right, department need. I looked at her. Madison, I'm going to say this once. What happened outside this building stays outside this building. In here, you'll be treated according to the same standards as every other employee. Her eyes flashed. And if I don't trust you, then I recommend you document your concerns through HR. That surprised her. She had expected defensiveness, maybe anger, maybe the satisfaction of watching me finally use power the way her family used guilt. I gave her none of it. She leaned closer. You must be enjoying this. No, I said. I'm taking it seriously. She looked at me like that answer offended her more than a smile would have. That evening, Ryan called. Not texted, called. I let it ring twice before answering. Madison says you're her boss now, he said. No hello, no congratulations, no apology, just Madison. Yes, I said. Her company was acquired. Her role moved into my department. You need to make this easy for her. I closed my eyes. There it was again. Not fair. Easy. What does easy mean, Ryan? She's pregnant. She's stressed. She doesn't need you taking revenge because of the shower. The only person who has mentioned the shower at work is Madison. She thinks you're going to punish her. I'm going to manage her. That's what I'm afraid of, he said. I sat very still. Do you hear yourself? What? You're afraid I'll hold your sister to professional standards. She's family. No, Ryan, she's an employee. His voice hardened. If you hurt her career, there's no coming back for us. I looked around my quiet apartment. Ryan had been staying mostly at Evelyn's for weeks by then. His side of the closet was half empty. His toothbrush was gone. The house already felt like it was exhaling him. There may not be a coming back anyway, I said. Silence. Then he said, You've changed. No, I said. I got promoted. The first week with Madison went exactly the way I expected and somehow worse. She arrived late to 2 meetings, 17 minutes the first time, 9 the second. She called me Nat in front of junior staff even after I signed every email as Natalie or Director Whitaker. She sent vendor updates by text instead of entering them into the dashboard. She told another BrightPath transfer that I had a personal vendetta against her. I did not confront her in the hallway. I did not snap. I did not mention balloons, baby showers, or Ryan. I wrote everything down. Monday, 10:17 a.m., Madison arrived 17 minutes late to integration meeting. Tuesday, 2:42 p.m., vendor update sent by text, not dashboard, redirected in writing. Wednesday, 4:08 p.m., Madison referred to personal family conflict in open workspace. Witness, Derek Allen. Every correction went by email. Madison, as discussed, all vendor updates must be entered into the Hawthorne dashboard by 3 p.m. Friday. This expectation applies to the full integration team. Please confirm receipt. She replied 6 hours later. Sure, Nat, I'll try. But things are a little harder when you're growing a human. I stared at the email. Then I forwarded it to myself and saved it in the Madison Whitaker file. By Friday evening, Evelyn called me. I almost didn't answer. Then I remembered Marisol's words. Document everything. So I answered and put the call on speaker while my phone recorded a voice memo on my laptop beside it. Evelyn did not waste time. You finally got a little power, she said, and the first thing you did was use it against a pregnant woman. I looked at the city lights outside my apartment window. No, Evelyn, I said. I used policy. That's probably why it feels unfamiliar. For once, she had no immediate reply. But I knew the silence would not last. Madison had been protected her entire life by tears, excuses, and family pressure. Now she had deadlines. And somehow, they all thought I was the cruel one. Madison filed the HR complaint on a Tuesday morning. I knew before anyone told me. Not because HR called, not because Marisol warned me, not because Madison said anything directly. I knew because Madison came into the office at 8:54 wearing the wrong expression. Too calm, too polished, too pleased with herself. She walked past my office slowly, one hand resting on her belly, the other holding her iced coffee, and gave me a small smile through the glass wall. Not a friendly smile, a smile that said she had finally found a weapon she thought I could not document. At 9:12, an email appeared in my inbox. Subject, confidential HR meeting request. From Denise Alvarez, Human Resources Business Partner. Natalie, please join Marisol Grant and me at 11 a.m. today regarding a formal employee concern filed within your department. No employee name in the email, no details, just clean corporate language. But I already knew. I opened the Madison Whitaker folder on my desktop and checked the subfolders again. Attendance, dashboard compliance, vendor communications, unprofessional remarks, family interference, Ryan documentation. Every email was saved, every missed deadline was logged, every correction I had sent her was written in the same tone I used with everyone else. Clear, specific, boring. Boring was important. Boring meant professional. Boring meant Madison could cry all she wanted, but the paper trail would not cry with her. At 11, I walked into conference room A with my laptop, a yellow legal pad, and a bottle of water I did not open. Denise from HR sat on one side of the table. Marisol sat beside her, expression unreadable. "Thank you for coming, Natalie," Denise said. "Of course." She folded her hands. "We received a formal complaint from Madison Whitaker alleging that you have created a hostile work environment based on personal family conflict." There it was. Hostile work environment. The phrase landed exactly the way Madison intended it to land. Heavy, serious, dangerous. Denise continued. "She states that you have singled her out, assigned her excessive work due to resentment over a family event, embarrassed her in front of peers, and made her feel unsafe reporting to you while pregnant." I let the silence sit for a beat. Then I said, "I understand the seriousness of that complaint. I have documentation ready for review." Denise blinked. Maybe she had expected defensiveness, maybe tears, maybe anger, maybe the version of me the Whitakers had described. Instead, I opened my laptop. "Would you like it organized by date or by category?" Marisol looked down at her notebook, but I saw the corner of her mouth move. Denise said, "Category is fine." So I began. First, expectations. I showed the onboarding deck every BrightPath employee received. Madison's assignments were identical in structure and scope to the other client experience coordinators. Her weekly vendor update deadline was the same. Her dashboard requirements were the same. Her meeting schedule was the same. Then attendance. I showed 3 late arrivals in 2 weeks. 17 minutes, 9 minutes, 22 minutes. Each one logged after Madison entered the room in front of witnesses. Then communication. I showed the emails where I reminded the entire team that vendor updates had to be entered into the dashboard, not texted privately. Then I showed Madison's reply. "Sure, Nat, I'll try, but things are a little harder when you're growing a human." Denise read it twice. I said nothing. Then performance. The dashboard showed every team member's update status: green, 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 yellow, red. Madison's row was red 3 Fridays in a row. I did not need to explain the color. The color explained itself. Finally, I opened the folder labeled Family Interference. "This is sensitive," I said, "but since Madison's complaint connects her work performance to a family event, I believe context matters." I showed them the text Ryan sent me the morning of my interview. "If you go to that interview, don't bother coming home as my wife." I showed them the screenshot of the emails sent from my account withdrawing from consideration. I showed them the timestamp. I showed them my call log to Marisol. Then I showed them Ryan's recent text. "If you hurt Madison's career, there's no coming back for us." Denise looked up sharply. "Your husband sent this after Madison began reporting to you?" "Yes." "And Madison is aware of this family conflict?" "Yes." Marisol finally spoke. "Natalie disclosed the potential conflict when she saw the reporting line chart. I advised her to document all expectations and interactions." Denise nodded slowly. "I appreciate that." I closed the laptop. "I am not asking for Madison to be punished because of our personal history. I am asking that her performance be evaluated by the same standards as everyone else's." Denise studied me. "And can you continue managing her under those standards?" "Yes," I said it immediately. Because it was true. I did not need revenge. I needed consistency. Madison had never feared cruelty from me. She feared fairness. That afternoon, Madison avoided my office completely. She spent most of the day whispering with Tessa, another BrightPath transfer, near the printer. Twice, when I walked by, the conversation stopped. I documented that too. At 5:38, Ryan called. I let it go to voicemail. Then he texted, "You have no idea what you're doing." Then another. "Madison is sobbing. She says HR interrogated her because of you." Then another. "You're destroying a pregnant woman for missing a few deadlines." I typed back, "All work-related concerns should be addressed through company channels." He replied almost immediately, "Stop talking like a lawyer." I'm your husband. For a long time I stared at those words. Then I wrote, then act like one. He did not answer. 2 days later, Madison made the mistake that changed everything. Her assignment was simple, at least on paper. BrightPath had been responsible for coordinating a product demonstration at the Midwest Hospital Procurement Forum in Indianapolis. Hawthorne was presenting a surgical inventory tracking system to 3 hospital networks. One of those networks, Greystone Health, was considering a regional purchasing contract worth $1.8 million in the first year alone. Madison's job was to confirm vendor shipment, verify delivery time, and upload the final equipment checklist by noon Thursday. I assigned it in writing. She replied, "Got it." That was the entire response. Got it. Thursday at 12:04, the checklist was not uploaded. At 12:17, I emailed her. Madison, please upload the Greystone demo checklist by 1 p.m. or advise if escalation is needed. No response. At 1:26, I called. Voicemail. At 2:03, I checked the vendor portal myself. No shipment confirmation. At 2:09, I called the vendor. The equipment had never been scheduled for pickup. For 6 seconds, I could not speak. The vendor coordinator on the phone said, "We sent 3 confirmation reminders to Madison Whitaker this week. We never received approval." "Forward them to me," I said. They did. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 reminders. No reply. I found Madison in the wellness room 20 minutes later, sitting with her shoes off, scrolling through her phone. "Madison," I said carefully, "the Greystone equipment was never confirmed." She looked up, annoyed. "What?" "The vendor says they sent you 3 reminders. You didn't respond." Her face changed, not guilt, calculation. "I thought you were handling that." "I assigned it to you Monday morning. You confirmed receipt." I said, "Got it. That doesn't mean I understood you were dumping the whole thing on me." The word dumping was useful. I wrote it down later. "We need to fix this now," I said. "Please come to conference room B." She stood slowly. "You're enjoying this." "No," I said. "A $1.8 million contract is at risk. I am not enjoying anything." For the next 4 hours, we scrambled. I called the vendor's regional manager. Derek found a backup freight partner. Marisol contacted Greystone directly. 2 warehouse supervisors stayed late to assemble replacement demo components from local stock. I personally drove one of the inventory tablets to a courier pickup point because waiting 30 extra minutes could have cost us the presentation. Madison cried in conference room B. Not quietly, not privately. In front of 2 supervisors and Denise from HR, who'd been pulled in after Madison claimed she was being attacked. "I'm pregnant," Madison said, pressing a tissue under her eyes. "I can't be expected to carry the emotional weight of being constantly targeted." Denise asked, "Madison, did you receive the 3 vendor reminder emails?" Madison hesitated. "I receive a lot of emails." "That is not an answer," Marisol said. Madison looked at me. "She set me up." I opened my laptop and projected the assignment email onto the conference room screen. Madison Whitaker. Confirm vendor shipment. Verify delivery window. Upload final checklist by Thursday noon. Below it, her reply. Got it. Then I opened the vendor reminders. Then the dashboard. Then the timestamp showing Madison had uploaded 3 files for her gender reveal party to a personal cloud folder during work hours that morning. The room went very quiet. Madison's tears stopped as if someone had turned off a faucet. "That was during my break," she said. "The uploads occurred at 10:14, 10:21, and 11:03, I said. "Your calendar shows you were scheduled for Greystone prep from 10 to noon. Denise wrote something down. Marisol leaned back in her chair. Madison stared at the screen. For the first time since I had known her, there was no Evelyn stepping in. No Ryan turning her failure into my cruelty. No living room full of relatives ready to call her sensitive and me selfish. Just facts. Cold, clear, time-stamped facts. The Greystone presentation was saved barely. The shipment arrived by emergency courier at 7:40 the next morning. The client never knew how close we came to disaster. But HR knew, Marisol knew, and Madison knew I had not raised my voice once. The following Monday, Madison was placed on a 60-day performance improvement plan. The meeting was formal. Denise attended. Marisol attended. I attended as Madison's direct manager. Madison sat across from us, with her arms folded over her belly, face pale with fury. Denise reviewed the terms. Mandatory dashboard compliance, no missed vendor confirmations, all project communications through approved channels, weekly Monday check-ins with Director Whitaker, immediate escalation if deadlines could not be met, professional conduct required in all team settings. Madison's eyes filled again. This is humiliating. Denise's voice stayed even. It is corrective. Madison looked at me. You did this. I met her eyes. No, Madison, you confirmed a task you did not complete. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came. Denise slid the document across the table. Please sign acknowledging receipt. Madison picked up the pen. Her hand shook. Not from sadness, from rage. She signed. After the meeting, Ryan sent one text. You destroyed my sister. I looked at it for a long time. Then I replied, no, I managed an employee. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then nothing. For once, Ryan had no clean line his mother could feed him, no moral speech about family, no accusation that survived contact with the evidence. That night I went home, took off my heels, and sat at my kitchen table with the Madison file open beside my laptop. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt tired. But underneath the exhaustion was something stronger, a steady, unfamiliar peace. Because I had not become cruel to survive them. I had become clear. And clarity, I was learning, terrified people who depended on confusion. Ryan filed for divorce 11 days after Madison signed the performance improvement plan. I found out through an email from a lawyer named Thomas Klein, whose office address was in Oak Brook and whose signature line was longer than his actual message. Mrs. Whitaker, I represent Ryan Whitaker in the matter of dissolution of marriage. Please direct all future communication regarding marital assets, residence, and financial obligations through my office. Marital assets, residence, financial obligations. Such clean words for the wreckage of 7 years. I sat at my kitchen table and read the email twice while my coffee went cold beside me. The old part of me, the part Ryan had trained so carefully, waited for panic to arrive. It didn't. There was sadness. Of course there was. I had loved him once. I had built grocery lists with him, chosen paint colors, taken road trips, sat in emergency rooms, fallen asleep beside him during movies we both pretended to be watching. You do not lose a marriage without losing versions of yourself. But panic? No. Ryan had been leaving long before he hired a lawyer. He had left every time he chose Madison's feelings over my truth. Every time he let Evelyn insult me and called it concern. Every time he benefited from my work but resented my success. The divorce papers were just the first honest thing he had done in months. I hired my own attorney 2 days later. Her name was Angela Reeves. She was in her late 40s with silver-streaked black hair, rimless glasses, and the unsettling calm of a woman who had watched too many men confuse control with partnership. She read through the documents I brought, mortgage statements, bank records, screenshots, Ryan's texts, the email he sent pretending to be me, the list of conditions he had given me for repairing our marriage, and every message where he demanded I make Madison's job easier. When Angela reached the one that said, if you hurt Madison's career, there's no coming back for us, she looked up. He wrote this after his sister became your direct report? Yes. And after he impersonated you in a promotion process? Yes. She set the paper down. Natalie, I'm going to be very direct. Your divorce may be emotionally difficult, but legally he is not in the position he thinks he is. Yet that was the first time I smiled in her office. Ryan's opening demand was exactly what I expected and somehow still insulting. He wanted half the equity in the townhouse, even though I had paid the down payment from savings I built before our marriage. He wanted temporary spousal support because, in his attorney's words, my new promotion had significantly altered the financial balance of the marriage. He wanted me to cover a portion of his legal fees because he claimed I had created financial instability by prioritizing work over family obligations. Family obligations. I sent that phrase to Angela with no commentary. She replied 3 minutes later, we will address that. The first mediation was held in a conference room with beige walls, a glass pitcher of water, and a box of tissues placed in the center of the table like someone expected a performance. Ryan arrived with his lawyer and Evelyn. Of course he brought Evelyn. She wore a cream blazer and the expression of a woman attending a funeral where she expected to inherit something. My attorney glanced at her, then at me. She's not a party to the marriage, Angela said quietly. She thinks she is, I whispered back. The mediator explained the process. Ryan avoided looking at me. Evelyn did not. She watched me like I had stolen something from her family instead of finally refusing to be used by it. When discussion turned to spousal support, Ryan's lawyer cleared his throat. Mr. Whitaker supported Mrs. Whitaker's career during the marriage, and now that she has received a major promotion, it is reasonable that he share in the financial benefit of that advancement. Angela opened her folder. Supported? She asked. One word. Flat. Dangerous. Ryan's lawyer shifted. Yes, as her spouse. Angela slid the first document across the table. A printed copy of the withdrawal email Ryan had sent from my account. Then the screenshot of Ryan's threat. If you go to that interview, don't bother coming home as my wife. Then the text after Madison joined my department. If you hurt Madison's career, there's no coming back for us. Angela folded her hands. My client's promotion occurred despite Mr. Whitaker's interference, not because of his support. We are prepared to subpoena device records and employer testimony if necessary. The room went very still. Ryan finally looked at me. Not angry, afraid. Evelyn leaned toward his lawyer and whispered something. The lawyer held up one hand to stop her. That was satisfying in a small, quiet way. Not because I wanted to destroy Ryan, because for once, someone in authority was telling a Whitaker woman to stop talking. The mediation did not finish that day. They asked for a break, then another, then a continuance. But the shape of the divorce changed after that. Ryan stopped asking for spousal support. He stopped demanding that I pay his legal fees. He stopped using the phrase family obligations. By the second mediation, we had a settlement framework. The townhouse would be sold. I would recover my premarital down payment first. Remaining equity would be split according to contribution records. We would keep our own retirement accounts. I would not pay support. He would not admit wrongdoing, but he would sign a mutual, non-disparagement clause. Angela advised me to accept. Closure has value, she said. I thought about fighting longer. I thought about making every screenshot public, every text, every ugly little sentence where Ryan revealed exactly who he was when he thought no one else would see. But then I thought of the townhouse, the cold kitchen, his hand over my keys, the way I had spent years making myself easier to love. I did not want to live inside that fight forever, so I signed. Madison, meanwhile, remained in my department. That surprised everyone, including me. For the first 2 weeks of her performance improvement plan, she came to work with a face like stone. She answered emails with the bare minimum. She called me Director Whitaker in a tone that made the title sound like an insult. I corrected only what needed correcting, nothing more. When she completed a dashboard update correctly, I wrote, "Received, thank you." When she missed a field, I wrote, "Please complete column G before 3 p.m." When she arrived on time to 3 Monday check-ins in a row, I noted it in her file. No praise she had not earned. No punishment she could claim was personal, just standards. Slowly, something strange happened. Madison improved, not dramatically, not magically. She did not become humble overnight or apologize with tears in the parking lot. This was not that kind of story. But she started entering updates before deadlines. She stopped using text messages for vendor changes. She asked clarifying questions in writing. She stopped calling me Nat in meetings. The first time she addressed me as Director Parker, not Director Whitaker, I looked up from my laptop. She noticed. Her cheeks colored. "I saw the name change in the system," she said. The divorce had finalized that morning. "Yes," I said, "that's my name now." She nodded once. No comment, no apology, but also no insult. For Madison, that was growth. 3 months after she entered my department, Hawthorne held the quarterly operations review. It was my first major presentation as regional operations director. Conference room B was full. Marisol sat near the front. Executives from Boston joined by video. Department managers lined both sides of the table. Madison sat halfway down with the rest of the client support team, her laptop open, posture straight. I presented the numbers. Regional delivery delays down 22%. Vendor response compliance up 31%. Emergency reroute costs reduced by 11.8%. Greystone Health contract secured for the full $1.8 million. BrightPath integration completed 2 weeks ahead of schedule. When I finished, the room was quiet for half a second. Then Marisol began clapping. Others joined. I stood at the front of the room, looking at the charts on the screen, and felt something settle in me. Not triumph, not revenge. Peace. The steady kind. The kind that does not need witnesses. After the meeting, Madison approached me near the coffee station. For a moment, I braced myself. Old habits. She held a folder against her chest. I sent the updated vendor reconciliation report, she said, early. I saw it. It's complete. I'll review it this afternoon. She looked past me, then back. I still think you could have handled the shower differently. There it was. One last little hook from the old world. I could have taken it. I could have reminded her of the email, the keys, the public humiliation, the HR complaint, Greystone disaster, the way her family had tried to turn my ambition into a crime. Instead, I said, and I think you could have handled your job differently. Looks like we both have things to work on. Madison stared at me. Then, for the first time since I had known her, she had no comeback. I walked away before she found one. That evening I went home to my new apartment on the north side of Chicago. Smaller than the townhouse, quieter, mine. No Ryan on the couch pretending silence was moral superiority. No Evelyn calling to tell me what family required. No Madison's emergency becoming my responsibility before I had even finished my coffee. Just my keys in a bowl by the door, my laptop on the table, my name on the lease. Natalie Parker. I made dinner. Answered 3 work emails. Put laundry in the dryer. Ordinary things, beautiful things. At 9:14 p.m., an email arrived from Madison. Director Parker, I completed the revised vendor reconciliation report and added notes on the Greystone follow-up process. Please let me know if further edits are needed. I read it twice. Then I replied, received. Thank you, Madison. No smiley face. No warmth I did not feel. No cruelty either. That was the line I had fought so hard to find. My name is Natalie Parker. I'm 34 years old. My husband told me to skip the interview I had spent 9 years earning because his sister needed help with a baby shower. He took my keys. He used my email. He threatened my marriage. He thought fear would keep me home. It didn't. I went to the interview. I got the promotion. And 6 months later, Madison Whitaker walked into my department, opened her onboarding folder, and learned that the woman she had called selfish was now the person responsible for measuring her performance. But that was not the real victory. The real victory was not watching Madison sign a performance improvement plan. It was not watching Ryan's lawyer go quiet when my attorney slid his own messages across a table. It was not taking back my name after the divorce finalized. The real victory was becoming someone I did not have to betray in order to be loved. Ryan taught me what control sounds like. Evelyn taught me how guilt dresses itself up as family. Madison taught me what entitlement does when no one tells it no. But I taught myself something better. I taught myself that love does not require disappearance. Family does not mean handing someone else the keys to your future. And leadership is not about using power to hurt people who hurt you. It is about holding the line when everyone expects you to bend. They wanted me at a dessert table. I walked into a boardroom. They wanted me apologizing for ambition. I built an entire department around accountability. They wanted me small enough to manage. Instead, I became the manager. And every Monday morning when Madison sends her weekly report to Director Parker, I do not feel revenge. I feel proof. Proof that I was right to go. Proof that I was right to stay calm. Proof that the life waiting on the other side of their disappointment was bigger than anything I lost. Ryan once told me if I went to that interview, I should not bother coming home as his wife. He was right about one thing. The woman who came home that day was not the wife he knew. She was stronger. She was clearer. She was done asking permission. And she was just getting started.